the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl has finally signed the agreement that 99.9% of all of America wanted signed. It took all the way down to the last second. There will be, no doubt, officially now, college football playoff expansion, 24 and then maybe differently in 26.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show a little bit, and I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in the room of, you know, the people telling the Rose Bowl they have to do this in that committee, like we have to do it or they're going to pass us by, and the old guard that says, no, we have to have it the way that we've always had it, or, you know, the fabric of time and space will come undone. Because that's kind of how they were acting about it, that if they did not get to have the parade into the game on January 1st at 2 p.m. Pacific time, that nothing was going to be right in the world and that there's no way you can soldier on. The biggest thing that they had to realize is, okay, if you decide to cost these people $450 million,
right,
that don't live in Los Angeles, that don't go to the Rose Parade, that don't know about this, that when the time comes to get back in this thing, they're not going to be in it. And then when you constantly try to negotiate to get back in it, there's going to be a bunch of people who are now less nostalgic and less romantic about the Rose Bowl who don't care. And they'll put that extra game at SoFi Stadium or in L.A. or at Allegiant in Vegas.
And not blink.
And not blink. And the Rose Bowl will be just another thing we forgot about. And if you want to stay relevant, you better be malleable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're not going to be a part of the party. It's just they don't have it on their own terms, and that's just too bad. Life sucks sometimes, you know? And so I don't think that the Rose Bowl is, from my point of view, so special that it should have special arrangement versus the others and be treated differently than the others. I think part of, having an expanded playoff is having more teams treated like, 4 teams are treated right now. And I know not everybody agrees on expansion. Everybody sound off on why 12 stinks or why 8's the better. I mean, I think 8 would have been great, but we zoomed all the way to 12, and so that's what it's going to be. But I was glad to see the Rose Bowl capitulate and realize that they were not going to be the one stop sign between college football and expansion of the playoff. Although they tried to be there for a little while, I think it's just a reality check for the folks out in Los Angeles or Pasadena, to be more exact, of kind of the changing landscape of, tradition is still a big part of college football and tradition matters, but there's a lot of tradition getting thrown to the wayside, including 2 teams right in your backyard who are now joining the Big Ten.
Yep.
So this is not your granddaddy's college football for the granddaddy of them all, or for anybody else for that matter. And, I understand that there's nostalgia. There's nothing more powerful than nostalgia, but, that's a drug that can be bad sometimes. And so I think, as much as you love the way the sun looks at a certain time of day in Pasadena, that goes for a select amount of people compared to the rest of the country who we want the Rose Bowl involved, but you're going to have to kick off at a different time, guys. You can't have it your way. You're going to have it the same as the Fiesta has it, and the same as the Sugar has it, and the same as, other historical bowls or not so historical bowls have it. However they end up solving, what the bowl system's actually going to look like. But I'm glad they're involved, and I'm glad that they, kind of realize, hey, this is not a fight we're going to win. And if we want to be involved in this, then we're going to have to, give in a little bit. And so they did. And to the West Coast folks and to the folks who have traveled out there, and, I know a lot of Texas fans have these romanticized memories of watching Vince Young score. And there's all sorts of other memories over the years, especially for Big Ten and Pac-12 fans. I don't have that feeling. I don't have that experience because it was never that relevant in the teams that I rooted for. But I always, admired it from afar and thought it was a cool deal. But for me, it really doesn't change my feeling about college football in any way, shape, or form. And I think I'm probably part of the majority. Now, it might not be an 80-20 majority, but I do think it is the majority if you were to poll college football fans and is the Rose Bowl strong enough to put a stake in the sand and prevent an expanded playoff? No, I don't think that they should have that kind of power.
No, and this is the first time in my lifetime, which means it's the first time in Craig's lifetime, and maybe the first time in Smokey's lifetime, where college football appears to have heard the demands of their actual consumers and done it the way the consumers had asked for. At least as close as you can.
It has taken forever to get to this point.
Maybe they
according
haven't.
to Bill Hancock, no.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically had the elitist and arrogant answer to Craig and I when we asked him about the future of college football. Remember that, Craig, where he's like, oh, no, we'll still be fine. But
yeah, no, I mean, he basically said so many words that no matter what they do, people are still going to watch. That was what his message was to us when we were talking about playoffs and whatnot. So I think that, we have to acknowledge, guys, the expansion is all money driven. Yeah. This isn't to make college football fans happy. Now, that's how they're going to spin it, is now everybody gets a chance or a greater chance. And, you can debate that all you want to. I've seen plenty of media people that are, crying in their Cheerios about this because now other games are going to be meaningless. The regular season is going to be meaningless. I've seen all sorts of reasons on both sides for why this will or will not work. But I don't know. I'm just going to... Here's a novel idea, let it play out and see how it works. And if it stinks, then I'll say so. And if it doesn't, then I'll say that too. But the whole let's not do it because this might happen is not a solid argument to me to not try and open things up a little bit. Oh, wow, Alabama might make it now, even though they have 2 losses, as though we're not sitting here on the final week when they should be eliminated. And yet, like, if TCU loses badly, and then if Ohio, and I know Ohio State's basically a wall in front of them, but, if Alabama and Ohio State get into a playoff because there's expansion, then so be it. But my whole argument with that is if they then go in and they go win 3 games against what's going to be certified top 25 opponents, most likely, then why would they not deserve it? Because they lost to Illinois in week 3? They shouldn't have a chance. So, like, you're saying that them going and running through, like, Clemson and Michigan State, and then let's say, like Alabama in a 4, 5, 6 week time frame doesn't prove that you're deserving of a championship, but that game in September that you lost should weigh as much, if not heavier. I don't know. How about prove it on the field? And I know they do to an extent right now, but we're actually sitting here in the final week where TCU's unbeaten, and there is a thought, whether legitimate or not, that they could get knocked out by losing this weekend. By losing in week 13.
Not only get knocked out, but replaced by somebody who's also lost.
By Ohio State or Alabama. So what is the difference, except for that there's now a handful of teams that aren't involved that now will be involved? That's my whole thing with the, oh my gosh, Alabama might get in now. It's never going to be perfect. I do think 8 would have probably satisfied most people's thirst on all sides. But you can come up with an example, if you really want to sit and think about it, for why 12 is not going to work. You can come up with plenty why 4 doesn't work. So no one's ever going to be totally happy. I don't think it's a big deal for those saying it's going to kill college football. It's going to kill the regular season. I mean, the NBA regular season is one of the most wasteful amounts of time in the world, and yet their playoffs are, they're just fine. They're totally popular. I mean, not every game of 82 matters, but that doesn't, I don't think, hurt the NBA. And yet I'm seeing arguments about TV ratings will be affected and this and that. I don't know.
Well, it's here. The good news is
Too bad.
I don't care about anything else, whatever's happened before now. It's here. 2024, 25 is when it will start. There were thoughts it might be pushed back again. It is here. There are still a lot of things to dot the I's and cross the T's and all that. The Rose Bowl was not given any promises about where they would land when it comes to the college football expansion of the playoffs. Not a single promise. They said they recognize the importance of the historic Bowl's tradition, New Year's Day time, and the Rose Bowl will continue to push for it in the next contract, but they were not given any promises whatsoever.
Yeah. And to go back to Craig and that, like, how it affects the regular season, I think it enhances the regular season down the line where the entire, if you're within shouting distance of getting to 12th, then especially November is important.
Which means you open up from what was 5 to 7 teams to what right now this year is only like 5 teams. What will be maybe as many as 16 or 20 that go into the last weekend of the year or the last weekend of conference play with a shot at playing for the national title.
Yeah,
or at least getting into the tournament.
K-State would be playing for a Big 12 title and a playoff spot this weekend. Now, I'm not saying you have to have these games to, to juice it up that much to where everybody gets a shot or anything like that. But, yeah, I think that's kind of a cool added benefit to this weekend if you're Kansas State is, this is even more of a do or die because this could be a playoff spot and a Big 12 championship all at the same time.
And I'll give you the only thing that's been negatively affected by baseball's expanded playoff, in my opinion, is the trade deadline is kind of boring now, and
used to be such a
used
big
to be
deal.
like but I mean, I'll take that compared to the fact that if my team's 9 games out of first place in their division, but only 4 games out of the wild card, then they can make something happen in the last month. Same thing in college football. I think what would be maybe affected is there's going to be some conference championships that mean absolutely nothing.
Oh, sure.
Because both teams will be in regardless. It would just mean seeding.
It's like district championships almost in football and high school level in Texas. You know, that used to be the banner you would put up because state championships were so rare. Everybody gets in. 4 teams get in. It's nice to be the number 1 seed, but at the same time, it's just a banner.
Yeah, I do think that the elimination of conference championship games would be a way to solve a lot of people's anxieties.
Yeah.
I do think that if you got, but they won't do it. That's the problem, is that and that's where you do get into the greed aspect of this, of where, okay, maybe that is too much because, yeah, now conference title games do lose a little bit of their luster. Certain ones, not all of them, like the Big 12 one wouldn't, because TCU's in regardless.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. So I don't think you could just blanket say, oh, well, now conference championship games don't matter at all. Some might, some won't. That's just kind of the deal. Guess what? That's kind of the way it is now, too, in so many ways. Yeah. But, you know, it matters a little less potentially because, yes, you want to win that conference title. Maybe there's not as much of a penalty for losing it, but I don't think that's a reason to not do it. But I do think that I think eliminating them would eliminate a lot of the anxiety so that you don't have that question of do they matter or do they not.
If LSU beats Georgia, does that conference championship really in the big picture matter?
No, and Georgia lost to the conference championship last year, and it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. So. All right.